Environment Minister Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng takes on the governing New Patriotic Party on a wide range of issues, including allowing impunity to fester and bribery of delegates to vote for a preferred candidate in an internal contest. We have details plus his concerns about the NPP's push to present a vulnerable candidate as its flag bearer. Also this afternoon, former Sanitation Minister Cecilia Benadapa says the continuous seizure of her money by the special prosecutor is subjecting her to hardship and embarrassment. We get details for you as she urges an Accra High Court to order a release of her funds. A lot later, aggrieved customers of Defun Gold Co investment fund management company set to begin a 48-hour picketing at the Finance Ministry over locked-up investments. We have details of these stories, a lot more if you stay with us for the next 30 minutes. A pleasure that you could be a part of this afternoon's bulletin. It's streaming live on Facebook. Our handles 3FM927. Same handles on Twitter as well, 3FM927. I am Eric Mawuena Egbeta, and we're beginning from what has been a widely discussed subject matter all throughout the weekend. This time, the former Environment Minister, Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng, is taking a bite at it because he's been hitting hard at the governing New Patriotic Party on a wide range of issues, including allowing impunity to fester and bribery of delegates to vote for a preferred candidate in an internal contest. Professor Boateng says the NPP is acting contrary to its tradition of rule of law and respect for media freedom. These comments were triggered by some young men attacking Accra-based UTV over alleged criticisms of government without a right of reply. My colleague Joseph Akable is joining me in studio with details of what is a quite lengthy statement, or we can call it an open letter from Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng. Joseph, first, let's start with the his assessment of the incident at UTV.
And so he makes the point that in terms of the New Patriotic Party, its tradition and what it stands for, starting from President Kufuor, who campaigned prior to the 2000 elections on the theme that he was going to ensure the media freedom. And so that part of the article, he says, I am puzzled that a tradition that has long been associated with believing in exchange of ideas, respect for rule of law, will have its members attack a media house. Perhaps these attacks have taken the cue from how the government and the party have allowed impunity to fester and grow in the NPP. If I recall, no one was allowed to be punished when similar groups went to the seat of government in Ashanti region to attack the then National Security Coordinator. Again, no one was made to face the law when these brutes attacked the court in Kumasi, making a lady judge who was sitting on that case run for her life in the full glare of the public. These events have led many to believe leaders have lost the moral control of the party or they benefit from these barbaric acts. And he ends by asking, so I ask NPP, how did we get here?
Right, so that's his assessment of the incident at UTV, but he didn't stop there. He had views on the state of the economy and government's posturing to a lot of things as well.
He makes the point that prominent and credible economists have predicted that considering the miserable and near hopeless state of the national economy, it might take Ghana at least 30 years to witness any semblance of recovery, even if everything is done right now. But he says that instead of addressing the challenges confronting us, the government appears to have resigned itself as if it had finished its job, and Ghanaians should wait for the next administration to address the myriad of problems facing the country. MPP, how did we get here? He asks once again.
And it was replete all throughout this. How did we get here? And that's where perhaps we'll ask on his comment on the traditions of the party and the extent to which he believes there is a deviation.
He makes the point that the right to life, liberty and pursuit of happiness are given rights that the NPP, proud to even come into power and in terms of its tradition, always upholds. He now says that now it appears the party is acting contrary to that. He states, and I read, the NPP tradition, as far as I know, does not believe that political power should be entrusted into the hands of one individual or a group of individuals and their family and friends and concubines.
Right then, Joseph, many thanks for walking us through, and all in relation to the development at UTV over the weekend. The Ghana Journalists Association have also been reacting. They issued a statement earlier, but they're taking a new position in relation to the earlier stance that the New Patriotic Party crossed the line. That's according to the General Secretary of the Ghana Journalists Association, Kofi Yeboah. He's been responding to the issuance of a letter by the party to Accra-based UTV's United Showbiz, which led to the subsequent invasion of the show on Saturday. He says such letters are only an encroachment on editorial discretion.
The content of the letter, I think they did cross the line. It was beyond mere concern being expressed. What the media house decides to do, especially so when it's a private media institution, may not be your concern. Okay, you may point out a few things as recommendation, suggestion. Okay, we had an instance where some political parties decided to boycott media houses, that they will not appear on them anymore. Nobody went to force them to come back. You only want to dialogue. They crossed that line. The mere fact that it was signed by Director of Finance and Administration, per my training, there are doubts surrounding that letter.
That's the General Secretary of the Ghana Journalists Association, Kofi Yeboah. The Media Foundation for West Africa as well. They've had calls to react to these developments. We can take a listen to their Executive Director, Suleiman Abrahima.
Over time now, for the last, for the last 5 years, we've seen a deterioration in the levels of freedom that we knew of in terms of our conditions as a country. But we need to also look at what are the causative factors. One, we have a government that is obviously intolerant. We have a president, who at one point even said that the murder of a journalist shouldn't be taken to be a press freedom incident, because when a legislator was murdered, nobody called it an attack on the legislature. So that time, the president and his government have clearly been intolerant when it comes to press criticism. Related to that is a growing culture of impunity, where people feel they can do anything and go scot-free.
Now, Suleiman Abrahama is the Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa, and it certainly does not bring an end to this particular subject matter. We continue to follow it and bring you details, even as the GJA continues to make the case for the police to round up 14 other individuals who were picked up or who were present at the premises of UTV earlier in the week. But we're switching our attentions from this because aggrieved customers of Defun Gold Co's investment fund management company are set to begin a 3-day protest at the Ministry of Finance over their locked up investments. The defunct company had its license revoked by the Security and Exchange Commission in November 2019, and an estimated 50,000 customers have had their funds locked up. The protest, which begins tomorrow through to Thursday, October 12, aims to pile pressure on the Finance Ministry to release the 8.6 billion cedis bailout package approved by Parliament. Charles Nyami is a spokesperson for the aggrieved customers. He's joining us on the telephone lines this afternoon. Many thanks for speaking to us. And there have been a series of agitations by your members with none getting you the needed results. What makes you confident that this time round you get responses from the Finance Ministry?
Thank you, Mawuena. I send greetings to all your listeners and also our members who are listening to you live. Mawuena, we have no option than to keep on pressing. This is the lifetime savings of over 30,000 pensioners who are part of our customers. And they have no other hope than to pursue this money. That is the reason why constantly we keep on pursuing this money. And we are just pleading and telling the powers that be that enough is enough. They should be with a bit of soft heart, because these funds have been raised. Mawuena, the Security Financial Commission budgeted for 8 billion for the total payment of all customers who fell under the Security Financial Commission with their financial cleanup exercise. But the Parliament approved 6.6 billion in excess of 600 million. These monies have been raised by the finance ministry, and the finance minister has calculated it as part of the expenditure. That is the 26 billion that they have used to clean up the financial sector. Meanwhile, these old men and women are still dying and have not gotten their money. So all that we seek to do is that the Ministry of Finance or the minister should come out and account for the money, how he disbursed it. Because there is no way that an amount which has been approved in excess of 600 billion for our payment would not be sufficient enough to pay us. The finance minister claims that the money has been spent as part of the 26 billion that they claim they have used to clean up the financial sector. So that is our plea. So we are going to the finance ministry for 48 hours, continuous picketing with these old men and women, and we expect the finance minister to do the needful and disburse our funds before we leave the place.
Have you gotten clearance? I wouldn't say clearance. Have you notified the police in relation to this particular picketing?
Yes, please. We notified the police a month ago. And as I'm speaking to you, I'm just from the Accra Regional Police Command. We are done with them. The road is clear. They are coming to offer us protection with this picketing that we are holding. So we have no issue with the police.
No issue with the police. But in terms of the engagement, you'll be there for 3 days. I know in the past you've picketed or you've petitioned Parliament as well to take some urgent steps in relation to the release of your funds. Are you looking to have Parliament come through for you again? Because we already know that groups like Fix the Country, Democracy Hub have decided to throw their weight behind your picketing tomorrow.
Yes, we are aware of that. And we call on all other civil society organizations to come and support us. And we expect the Parliament, because it is the Parliament that made the approval. So if Parliament, you have approved money for a specific job, and the finance minister is claiming he has paid us, and we are crying that he hasn't paid us, we expect Parliament to come through to intervene and put the finance minister to order to question him where he sends the money to. That's all that we are looking for. And Mawuena, for your information, accounts has already been created for all the customers in the commercial bank after the validation of our claims. So as we are there within the 48 hours in the finance ministry, the finance minister can just advance money to the commercial bank at the click of button. Customers' accounts could be credited, then we leave the place.
Right then, I'm sure we'll follow up on this. We'll be there tomorrow to provide coverage. That's Charles Nyami, is a spokesperson for the aggrieved customers, speaking to us this afternoon. And like I mentioned, groups like Fix the Country, Democracy Hub are deciding to throw their weight behind them tomorrow or over this particular exercise. They're seeking the finance ministry to release some 8.6 billion cedis total bailout package as approved by Parliament for them, their investments, which has been locked up since November 2019. It will be nearly 4 years since that their funds were locked up. But you're listening to the news here on 3FM 92.7. And we're moving away from this to another matter that continues to stoke a lot of controversy and debate. This time, former Sanitation Minister Cecilia Benadapa says the continuous seizure of her money by the special prosecutor is subjecting her to hardship and embarrassment. $590,000 and some 2.8 million cedis found in her residence remain in the custody of investigators who believe they are possibly proceeds of crime. Madam Dapa is asking the court to hold an earlier hearing to determine whether her account should be unfrozen and the money is released. There's more in this news desk report.
Madam Dapa says monies transferred from her dead brother's account were payment of his children's fees. This is a response to claims by the Office of Special Prosecutor that the said transfer was suspicious since the brother has been dead for some time now. Madam Dapa explains that the account was opened with funeral donations by Cow Bank at her brother's funeral. The OSP is back at the High Court seeking a confirmation of its freeze and seizure order. It will be recalled that the OSP seized $590,000 and 2.8 million cedis during a search of the former minister's residence. Her accounts were also frozen. An Accra High Court, however, issued an order allowing a release of the cash and asking for the accounts to be unfrozen. The OSP complied with this order but shortly announced it had seized the cash and issued a fresh freezing order. The minister has, through her lawyers, filed court documents asking the court to once again reject this request for confirmation of the actions. The OSP had also accused the former minister of engaging in an undeclared real estate business. It was further alleged that she had sold the property to a third party under the alias Nana Ya Ode. Madame Dapa says she has no real estate business and investigators have failed to provide any evidence to back this claim. She adds that she did not conceal her identity to sell any property, but rather sold the said property in a representative capacity for Nana Ya Ode, also known as Nana Ode Nyako, her mother who is now deceased. The application was expected to be moved at the High Court on 18th October. However, lawyers for the former minister want an earlier hearing. They say that the continuous seizure of the cash and freezing of the accounts makes life hard for the former minister and subjecting her to embarrassment.
And his desk report there, and this one in particular, the details that we've been bringing to you from the affidavit as deposed to by Madame Cecilia Dapa, has become the subject of a lot of debate on social media, with many of you reacting to it quite strongly. And this is not the last you're going to be hearing of it here on 3FM 92.7. But let's take you to Korle Bu, because the board chair of the teaching hospital, Dr. David Nkansa Dwamena, says the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital is actively working to secure legislative framework for formalizing transplantation services, focusing particularly on kidney transplant services initiated by the hospital's local medical team. He also notes the need for parliamentary support to pass laws regarding tissue donation, harvesting and storage of various organs, aiming to save the lives of thousands in need. He's been making the commentary as part of the centenary celebration of the hospital.
The board, under my leadership, is dedicated and committed to expanding the services that are being provided. This has already begun with the introduction of the kidney transplant services by our local team of surgeons, nephrologists, and other professionals. In this aspect, the board is supporting management to secure the necessary legislative framework to formalize transplantation services in the country. We will also support the introduction of other services and procedures through further training of our staff that will make it needless for Ghanaians to travel in other countries for medical care. We are therefore calling on Parliament and other agencies to support the preparation and passage of the law on tissue donation, harvesting and storage of various organs that will save the lives of thousands of Ghanaians who are sick and in need of help.
As the board chair of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, it's a premier hospital here in the country, Dr. David Nkansa Dwamena. Emmanuel Samani is my colleague at that particular event. Samani, talk to us. 100 years of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital. What is the plan for the celebration?
Thank you very much.
Emmanuel, you're right. Much better now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, much better now.
Yes. So like I was saying, it's been a century of we are celebrating in many ways.
Emmanuel, if you could go back to the position you were at before we agreed that I could hear you.
Am I audible enough now?
Yes, much audible now.
Right. So like I was saying, so it's been 100 years of the inception of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, and the theme for this year is 100 years of leadership in quality healthcare delivery through training, research, innovation, and partnership. Now, according to the CEO of the hospital, they are bringing out 100 ways to celebrate 100 years of the existence of the hospital. So let me just run by you quickly how they intend celebrating their centenary. So they're asking on corporate Ghana, philanthropists, and institutions to adopt a ward or a project campaign. So what it basically means is that they're asking Ghanaians to come in and adopt a ward and take care of that ward as they mark 100 years as well. They are also going to have a float through the principal streets of Accra, as well as develop a digital map to ensure or enable patients who come into the hospital. We know that, it is a large facility.
Right.
So that if you're maneuvering through, you won't be lost, and you can get to where you are. They're also trying to revamp the trust fund to enable them to undertake some more projects via crowdfunding to support needy critical patients as well, and also landscaping, painting, just revamping
the entire facility.
Hospital. Absolutely.
On the bit of the transplantation, that has come as some good news for a lot of citizens. Did they explain further what really the plan is on this legislative framework?
And as you know, Mawuena, you know that there is no legislation for kidney transplants, for even sperm donation. We don't have any legal framework guarding these types of interventions. And so the board chair of the Kolebu Region Hospital, Dr. Jamna, indicated that work is underway to get a airline to enable transplantation, storage, and harvesting of organs. And as you know, the issue of kidney disease has been on the rise recently. And so this move would really help a lot of individuals who are facing really dire health, situations that would be enable them to, tap into these transplants and the like. So he says that they are working keenly with Parliament and other government agencies to enable them legalize this transplant harvesting and storage of bodily tissues and organs.
Right then, Samani, many thanks. That's my colleague Emmanuel Samani speaking to us there. Even as Kolebu marks 100 years, they're planning to see to legislative framework over transplantation services with a focus on kidney transplant. That's been a topical subject over the last few weeks here in the country. To party politics now, where the Convention People's Party has begun reactivation and reorganization of the party to strengthen its base and ensure they prepare adequately to win power at coming elections 2024. Chair and leader of the party, Nana Akosua-Agyapong, observed the Ghanaian youth is fed up with failed promises and wants change. She said it is time the youth-owned CPP clinch power and better their lives.
If you don't have the base, especially in Ghana, where elections are now won at polling stations and where policies have become so monetized, how can you get the system to work? CPP's time again has come, and we must make the best of it. That is why it is not just about fighting the system. It's not just about even talking about populist stance, but mainly important is to get people to be part of and own the party at the polling station electoral area. So that is why we are presenting the youth. It is the youth who are ready for a change. They want Ghana to be fixed. They want to see a better country. Now all you need is a phone, and you see what is happening in the world. And they know clearly that what is happening in Ghana is not they can't even buy data. You want power. How are you going to get the power? How are you going to get power? You say you are youth, you can do it. How? By sitting there and demonstrating alone. Demonstration is your ability to tell people that you are not happy with the system. But what is the alternative? What is the alternative to be able to do what is right, that you know is right for you? Even if you don't know, you know what is right for you. So can't you come and add your voice? That is why CPP is offering every young person the opportunity to join. Cross over. It is time to cross over from where you are standing. Don't stay there. And take over.
That's the chair of the CPP, Nana Akosua-Agyapong. Well, we know that last Friday, the government held a joint news conference with the International Monetary Fund with the presence of the Bank of Ghana as well. Today, the minority has been reacting to that, and they've been describing the IMF program currently being implemented by government as a failure. The IMF, after its review, has given Ghana a clean bill of health with the staff level approval for the release of the second tranche of the $600 million. But it appears the NDC says that the indicators such as inflation which was better last year without the IMF than today. Komla Kluche was at a news conference organized by the ranking on finance. Let's speak to him briefly on exactly what the concerns of the NDC are over the position of the IMF. Komla, many thanks. What pointers did Ms. Adongo raise in countering the clean bill of health as given by the IMF?
Well, he makes the point that, inciting inflation and indicating that this year's own is better than last year. It cannot be far-fetched from what they know as the blatant lie. In fact, he actually tried to compare the figures, and in what he stated, it was quite clear from their side that, yes, indeed, this year has actually been quite bad compared to that of last year. Now, he also makes the point that in the clean sheet that the IMF has been trying to give to the government, it does appear that the government has become a lobbyist. They've taken a lobbyist position instead of stating exactly what their books say, and that the IMF itself is even not being able to be truthful to what the figures does represent. And he thinks that it's actually a very difficult position that the country finds itself, and that the situation in which we find ourselves, there will not be any movement or shift from it until all of this is said and done in the years that they projected, between 5 to 10 years from now, that the situation is actually going to get worse, going forward into 2024. This is what he had to say.
It does appear to me that this IMF program is not a program that is targeted at doing the hard work to help the people of Ghana get out of the difficulties that we are in. But it is one that, for me, appears to be more of a lobbyist activity, treated with kid gloves, and a child who is not willing to take the bitter pill in order to heal faster. And all that has been going on is basically playing with the emotions and the livelihoods of Ghanaians and using PR to foster that. In the first place, the data is quite clear that the situation is worse today than it was last year. And yet, we would want to believe that last year was the worst period, that after the IMF in 2023, it will get better than last year. But the data suggests otherwise. And I want to give you the data on inflation. You can't take end-year inflation of 2022 and compare it to any of the inflation other than December 2023. That is how you compare apples to apples. Because the inflation that you find in any period, year on year, is compared to the same period the previous year. And we are not in December. The inflation we are seeing today has different seasonal and cyclical pressures compared to that of December. In December, we all know the demand pressures. We know Christmas comes. There's a lot of pressure on the cedi because people are looking for foreign currency to stock for Christmas and all of that. The inflation of now has not experienced that. So you can't compare that to the inflation that would be attained in December.
As a ranking on the Finance Committee of Parliament, Isaac Adongo speaking, that we're just going to end with a release that's coming through from the police in relation to investigating the death of a male adult at Medina, Ogbojo, and the police says that they are investigating the circumstances surrounding the death of one Bennett Adoma Ejekum at Medina in the Greater Accra region, and we'll follow up on this as and when there's a bit more and bring you the details of it. But that's our bulletin for you this afternoon. It came to you from our studio here on the John Hammond Street in Accra at the Sawe Kanda, to be specific. I am Eric Mawuena Egbeta. As always, a lot more news if you log on to 3news.com. The business team, they're on standby to bring us the very latest from the world of business.
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3 FM.
Hello, good afternoon. It's time now for Business Daily. Coming up, interest rate on Treasury Bills inches to 33% as government exceeds target by 466 million cedis. We will tell you the implications. And ratings agency Fitch Solutions projects about 1% strengthening of the Ghana cedi against the US dollar in 2024. Plus, Institute of Directors Ghana stresses role of environmental, social, and governance factors as cost-effective measure for businesses. Thanks for your company. Now to our very first story. Government is in the issuance of its 91, 182 and 364-day Treasury bills exceeded its target of raising 2.2 billion cedis. The short-term securities exceeded its target by some 466 million cedis as it managed to raise 2.57 billion cedis from the debt market.
The soaring interest rates on T-bills have been alarming for businesses and market watchers. Rates have now inched to 33%. One could argue that it's a great avenue for investors, especially considering the current macroeconomic conditions, the high inflation rate, the high cost of borrowing, and the generally high cost of living. Market watchers, however, argue it is not as good as it seems, whether for banks, businesses, or individuals.
Most people are not saving in the banks as such. They all decided to turn to the Treasury bills because the Treasury has a higher rate. So even if you have 100,000 and you go to a bank and they will pay you about 3% or 2%, the same 100,000 can give you fixed for 1 year. You're going to get about close to 32%. The higher Treasury bill rates is basically crowding out the banks from cheaper funds so that they can lend cheaper to their customers.
As opposed to investing in Treasury bills, are banks confident in lending to individuals and businesses?
I think the answer is not exactly. And so a lot of credit analysis would have gone into it to look at the exposure of the sector to, say, the economic cycles, to look at the risk inherent, the FX exposure, and how the whole inflation and general macro uncertainty dynamics play or affect those sectors. Those will determine where credit will go. And so to the extent banks are not very satisfied about the health and long-term outlook of that sector or that business, they may not even advance credit. And it may not be because there is no money to lend. It is just purely because of credit analysis and considerations linked to that.
Currently, T-bills are government's only source for meeting its refinancing obligations. Is there a possibility of restructuring should the debt become overwhelming for government?
But in 3 weeks, government reduced the T-bill rate, 91-day rate, from 35% to about 18%, really. And you could do same if inflation recedes significantly, if the macro outlook improves significantly and the risk factors are receding. Same for 182-day. Within 6 months, you could reprofile all of it. And so the question becomes, what is the justification for restructuring that, especially when that is the only source government is able to raise money from the market now? So from the way I understand the dynamics, the concerns may be legitimate, but practically I don't think they will restructure T-bills.
And that was a report by my colleague, Benu Afol. Now, ratings agency Fitch Solutions has predicted a roughly 1% strengthening of the Ghana cedi against the US dollar in 2024, positioning it as one of Africa's top performing currencies for the year. The following Business Desk report has more. In the latest country risk analysis on Ghana, the UK-based firm has projected a moderate 11.5% depreciation of the local currency against the American greenback by year-end. This is a significant improvement from last year's substantial 40% depreciation. The analysis indicates optimism regarding the government's efforts to restructure Ghana's external debt under the G20 Common Framework, foreseeing progress by the second quarter of the coming year. This move is anticipated to bolster investor confidence in Ghanaian assets attract capital inflows, and provide vital support to the cedi. Recent developments have seen a slight dip in the cedi's value against the US dollar, attributed to heightened domestic demand and the global strengthening of the US dollar. However, positive news arrived last week when the International Monetary Fund mission team announced a staff-level agreement with the Ghanaian government set to bring in additional $600 million in inflows. This development is expected to further enhance investor confidence and solidify Ghana's balance of payments. And that was a Business Desk report. Moving on, the Institute of Directors Ghana has emphasized the importance for businesses to view environmental, social, and governance factors as cost-effective measures within their operations. President of the Council of the Institute of Directors Ghana, Reverend Mrs. Angela Carmen Appiah, pointed out that company management should consistently factor in the potential costs associated with damaging their reputation by violating ESG principles.
So when you talk about environment, for example, you're looking at standards that will help to reduce waste, standards that also seek to find carbon footprints. What are we doing in an environment that is not causing harm so that the trees can live and we can also live? When you look at the society, the cultural bits of things, the diversity, the individuals in the society, how representation is on the board, like this gender balance thing. So we carry everybody along. So thinking about costs, we all had a very good experience of COVID. If you build good systems, you become resilient. So now where the global economy is going, you find the economy is not just looking at cost in terms of finances or money, but cost in terms of reputational damage, for example. So you want to reduce these negative sides of governance so that we stand tall.
And that was President of the Council of the Institute of Directors Ghana, Reverend Mrs. Angela Carmen Appiah. This is still Business Daily with me, Bismarck Ausa. To some other stories, a crypto expert has renewed calls for the regulation of cryptocurrency transactions in the country. Cryptocurrency trading, including Bitcoin, according to Bank of Ghana, are currently not licensed under the Payment System Act 2003, Act 662. But according to Chief Operations Officer of Yellow Card, Jason Marshall, regulating the trade will ensure that these activities do not continue in the dark and as well eliminate actors in the digital currency trading.
We want regulation. In some other jurisdictions, the regulations has moved a little farther, and it's helping the industry. A couple ways. One, we want to work with the government to push these bad actors out of the business. That hurts everybody. It hurts society, and it hurts businesses like ours. Right? Two, it gives a level playing field. Right? We spend a lot of money on sophisticated technology to do high-level anti-money laundering and know your customer screening. Some of our competitors don't. We're at a disadvantage by doing things the right way because other people aren't forced to do things the right way. So if government forces everyone to do things the right way, you create a level playing field. And then right now, we lose to people because we're too strict. If everyone has to be the same strictness, right, then we can compete on customer service and technology and innovation, and that's a place we'd rather compete on.
Chief Operations Officer of Yellow Card, Jason Marshall, ending Business Daily with me, Bismarck Ausa. For more business stories, please log on to 3news.com. Urban Blend continues with Black Rasta.